All right, so this week we're talking about mean, median, mode, and range because we are starting a statistics unit. So that just means we're going to be talking about data, and this week we're doing mean, median, mode, and range, which you should have done in 6th grade, but if you can't remember because you all did it when you were online, we're going to go over this again, okay? So here it is. So here is what you all are going to be doing today, or this week, excuse me. So everybody in both of my math classes, so this video is for resource and math strategies. You all have 406, assignment 406 you need to complete. And you will also have your probes that you need to complete this week, okay? I also linked the video at the very bottom for you all. We're going to watch it together, but if you want to go back and watch it, you can, okay? And this week's Class Kick assignment is you have 2 warm-ups to do. So this is just review. Please use your calculator. We have 2 warm-ups, so get those done, please. And then you have your notes page on what we're doing this week. And then you'll have an assignment. So here is what the resource class, this is your all's assignment. And my math strategies class might have no, never mind. Everybody's going to have this assignment. So this is what we're doing. Okay? So here's what you have to get done this week. The whole week. You have the whole week to get all of this done. All right, so mean, median, and mode is what we're talking about. Here's where you're going to take your notes. I'm going to walk you through it and fill out my notes page. So you can pause the video and put it on your notes page. I know this is hard. If you have a printer at home, you can always print this off and fill it out yourself. But I'm going to be typing, and when I type something in, you can pause the video and put it on your Class Kick, okay? So let's go through this together. I'm going to play the YouTube video and we'll watch together, and then we'll do the notes. So I'm going to put it, there we go.
Hi, this is Rob. Welcome to Math Antics. In this lesson, we're going to learn about 3 important math concepts called the mean, the median, and the mode. Math often deals with data sets, and data sets are often just collections or groups of numbers. These numbers may be the results of scientific measurements, or surveys, or other data collection methods. For example, you might record the ages of each member of your family into a data set. Or you might measure the weight of each of your pets and list them in a data set. Those data sets are fairly small and easy to understand, but you can have much bigger data sets. A really big data set might contain the cost of every item in a store, or the top speed of every land mammal, or the brightness of all the stars in our galaxy. Those data sets would contain a lot of different numbers, and if you had to look at a big data set all at one time, it would be pretty hard to make sense of it or say much about it besides, well, that's a lot of numbers. But that's where mean, median, and mode can really help us out. There are 3 different properties of data sets that can give us useful, easy to understand information about the data set so that we can see the big picture and understand what the data means about the world we live in. That sounds pretty useful, huh? So let's learn what each property really is and find out how to calculate them for any particular data set. Let's start with the mean. You may not have ever heard of something called the mean before, but I'll bet you've heard of the average. If so, then I've got good news. Mean means average. Mean and average are just 2 different terms for the exact same property of a data set. The mean, or average, is an extremely useful property. To understand what it is, let's look at a simple data set that contains 5 numbers. As a visual aid, let's also represent those numbers with stacks of blocks whose heights correspond to their values. 1, 8, 3, 2, 6. Right now, since each of the 5 numbers is different, the stacks of blocks are all different heights. But what if we rearrange the blocks with the goal of making the stacks the same height? In other words, if each stack could have the exact same amount, what would that amount be? Well, with a bit of trial and error, you'll see that we have enough blocks for each stack to have a total of 4. That means that the mean, or average, for our original data set would be 4. Some of the numbers are greater than 4, and some are less. But if the amounts could all be made the same, they would all become 4. So that's the concept of the mean. It's the value you'd get if you could smooth out or flatten all of the different data values into one consistent value. But is there a way that we could use math to calculate the mean of a data set? After all, it would be very inconvenient if we always had to use stacks of blocks to do it. There's got to be an easier way. To learn the mathematical procedure for calculating the mean, let's start with blocks again. But this time, instead of using trial and error, let's use a more systematic way to make the stacks all the same height. This way involves a clever combination of addition and division. We know that we want to end up with 5 stacks that all have the same number of blocks, right? So first, let's add up all of the numbers, which is like putting all of the blocks we have into one big stack. Adding up all of the numbers, or counting all the blocks, shows us that we have a total of 20. Next, we divide that number, or stack, into 5 equal parts. Since the stack has a total of 20 blocks, dividing it into 5 equal stacks means that we'll have 4 in each, since 20 divided by 5 equals 4. So that's the math procedure you use to find the mean of a data set. It's just 2 simple steps. First, you add up all the numbers in the set, and then you divide the total you get by how many numbers you added up. The answer you get is the mean of the data set. Let's use that procedure to find the mean age of the members of this fine-looking family here. If we add them all up using a calculator, or by hand if you'd like, the total of the ages is 222 years. But then, we need to divide that total by the number of ages we added, which is 6. 222 divided by 6 is 37. So that's the mean age of all the members in this family. All right, that's the mean. Now, what about the median?
All right, so I'm going to pause there. I'm going to go back to class kick, and we're going to do some notes, okay? So the mean, what is the mean? Well, the mean is, and he gave us the other name for the mean, which is the average. So I'm going to write average. What is the mean? It's the average. So go ahead and put it on your class kick. All right. Feel free to pause me. This video is for the whole week, so you can pause and come back and finish your notes later, okay? So I'm going to go on to the how. How do you find the mean? Well, you're going to add up all your data. Let's see, and let's make my font littler. There we go. Add all numbers, then divide by the add up. So you're going to add all your numbers, and then you're going to divide by how many numbers you added. So you're going to add all of your numbers, then divide by the number of data. Well, no, I don't want to say it like that. So you're going to add all the numbers, then divide by the number of numbers you added. So that might be a little confusing. So you're going to add, then divide, basically. So I'm going to just highlight that. You're going to add, then divide. So put that on your sheet. All right, so here's an example. Here is an example of one. So let's say we're trying to find the average. I'm just going to give you a list of numbers. So I'm going to have 2, 3, 6, 8, 9, 10, 15, or 25, 15. Here we go. So that's my list of numbers. And I'll have this already on your notes for you. So how are you going to find the mean? You are going to do 2 plus 3 plus 6 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 plus 25 plus 15. And then you're going to add all of that up, and that is going to equal, and that gives you 78. Okay? And then you need to divide. So now you are going to take your total that you got, which is 78, and it's going to be divided by, and I'm going to put a slash. You can also put a little divide symbol. Well, here, I can probably maybe write it, hopefully. Let's see. 78 divided by, let's see. Let's make those dots a little bit bigger. There. No, that's not really good, is it? There we go. There we go. 78 divided by, oops. Come on. And then we have to count. How many numbers did we add together? Well, we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. And 78 divided by 8. 9.75. So 9.75 is our mean, and that would be our answer. So I'm going to circle that. 9.75 is our answer, and that is how we do it. Okay? All right. Don't worry about this. You're not putting anything on this line right here. So I'm just going to draw an X. You don't have to worry about that. Okay? So now you have mean done. Let's go back and let's watch for median.
The median is the middle of a data set. It's the number that splits the data set into two equally sized groups or halves. One half contains members that are greater than or equal to the median, and the other half contains members that are less than or equal to the median. Sometimes finding the median of a data set is easy, and sometimes it's hard. That's because finding the middle value of a data set requires that its members be in order from the least to the greatest, or vice versa. And if the data set has a lot of numbers, it might take a lot of work to put them in the right order, if they aren't already that way. So to make things easier, let's start with a really basic data set that isn't in order. It's pretty easy to see that we can put this data set in order from the least to the greatest value just by switching the 2 and the 1. There, now we have the data set 1, 2, 3, and finding the median or middle of this data set is easy. It's just 2, because the 2 is located exactly in the middle. That almost seems too easy, doesn't it? But don't worry, it gets harder. But before we try a harder problem, I want to point out that sometimes the mean and the median of a data set are the same number, and sometimes they're not. In the case of our simple data set, 1, 2, 3, the median is 2, and the mean is also 2, as you can see if we rearrange the amounts or follow the procedure we learned to calculate the mean. But what about the first data set that we found the mean of? We determined that the mean of this data set is 4. But what about the median? Well, the median is the middle, and since this data set is already in order from least to greatest, it's easy to see that the 3 is located in the middle since it splits the other members into 2 equal groups. So for this data set, the mean is 4, but the median is 3. So to find the median of a set of numbers, first you need to make sure that all the numbers are in order, and then you can identify the member that's exactly in the middle by making sure there's an equal number of members on either side of it. Okay, so far so good. But some of you may be wondering, what if a data set doesn't have an obvious middle member? All of the sets we've found the median of so far have an odd number of members. But what if a set has an even number of members, like the data set 1, 2, 3, 4? There isn't a member in the middle that splits the set into 2 equally sized groups. If that's the case, we can actually use what we learned about the mean to help us out. If the data set has an even number of members, then to find the median, we need to take the middle 2 numbers and calculate the mean or average of those 2. By doing that, we're basically figuring out what number would be exactly halfway between the 2 middle numbers, and that number will be our median. For example, In the set 1, 2, 3, 4, we need to take the middle two numbers, 2 and 3, and find the mean of those numbers. We can do that by adding 2 and 3 and then dividing by 2. 2 plus 3 equals 5, and 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So the median of the data set is 2.5. Even though the number 2.5 isn't actually a member of the data set, it's the median because it represents the middle of the data set and it splits the members into two equally sized groups. Okay, so now you know the difference between mean and median.
All right, let's go back to our notes over here. And here we go. I am just going to take what I put up here, this data set, and I'm going to put it over here. So when we get ready, I already have my data set. All right, so what is the median? Well, he said it is the middle. It is the middle, median, middle. How do we find our median? To find it, we put them in order. Put the numbers in order from least to greatest. Then find the middle number. Go ahead and put that on your notes. And I might already give you on your notes how to find it. And then just you all have to tell me what that means. So your notes might look a little different, but don't freak out. So I already have our set here. We need to find the median. All right, so to do this, I like to go ahead and draw on mine. So I'm just going to use blue and I'm going to draw on mine. So we have 2 over here, a 15, and I'm going to find the middle number. And to find the middle number, I'm just going to mark mine off by putting a dot. Okay, so I have 3 on this side, 3 on this side. Well, I have 2 numbers in the middle right now. So I'm going to have to do what he said and find the mean to help me. So to find what our median is, since there's not one direct number in the middle, I'm going to do 8 plus 9, and that gives me 17. And then 17 divided by, there we go, 2 is equal to, let me type that in real quick, 8.5. So 8.5 is our median there. Okay, I'm going to do, let's see, if I do these numbers again, but I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add 4. Oh, and and I just realized one thing. I didn't follow directions. So up here, I have my original data set. It needs to be in order. So I'm going to put my 15 there and my 25 there. Okay, now my numbers are in order from least to greatest. It still didn't change my answer though, okay? So there we go. We have that. I just fixed it. So there, I'm going to add a 4 on there. We need one more data set. So I'm going to show you if you had an odd number. So here's my numbers I have. I need to put those in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to do 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 15, 25. So now I put my numbers in order. All right, so now I'm just going to go through, and I like to use the highlighter to help me mark them off. You all can use a pen, highlighter, whatever you'd like. There we go. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to mark them off. I'm trying to find the middle. I like to mark on each side. Here we go. I'm trying to find the middle number. And our median for this one is going to be 8 because that is my middle number. So let me just put in here. So for the first one, our median was 8.5. And for the second one, our median is 8 because that is the number in the middle. Oh, and I did it again, y'all. My goodness. I highlighted the wrong ones. Let me double check. Let's do the right. Let's highlight the right ones this time. All right, so if I was highlighting the right ones, here we go. One on that side, one on that side, one on that side. Let me just go through and mark them all off. Good. It still remains 8. Make sure you're paying attention and marking off the ones that you want. So here's 2 different ways to find the median, okay? All right, so let's see if I can, nope. All right, there we go. So there is that. Okay, now let's go back and let's see what he says next.
But what about the mode of a data set? What in the world does that mean? Well, mode is just a technical word for the value in a data set that occurs most often. In the data sets we've seen so far, there hasn't even been a mode because none of the data values were ever repeated. But what if you had this data set? This set has 6 members, but some of the values are repeated. If we rearrange them, you can see that there's 1 1, 2 2s, and 3 3s. The mode of this data set is the value that occurs most often or most frequently, so that would be 3 since there's 3 3s. Now don't get confused just because the number 3 was repeated 3 times. The mode is the number that's repeated most often, not how many times it was repeated. As I mentioned, if each member in a data set occurs only once, it has no mode. But it's also possible for a data set to have more than one mode. Here's an example of a data set like that. In this set, the number 7 is repeated twice, but so is the number 15. That means they tie for the title of mode. This set has 2 modes, 7 and 15. Okay, so now that you know what the mean, median, and mode of a data set are, let's put all that new information to use in one final real-world example. Suppose there's this guy who makes and sells custom electric guitars. Here's a table showing how many guitars he sold during each month of the year. Let's find the mean, median, and mode of this data set. First, to find the mean, we need to add up the number of guitars sold in each month. You can do the addition by hand or you can use a calculator if you want to.
All right, I'm going to pause it there because he's finding all of them for us. Let's go back and let's do mode, okay? So what was mode? Mode is the most. Mode is the most. How are we going to find it? We are just going to look at our data. Okay, so let's do an example, okay? So if I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 6, or 5, 5, 6, 7, 9. Shoo. Okay. Well, what would our mode be? What's the number that shows up the most? Let's see. I have 3 4s, but I have 2 5s. But you have to think, which one shows up more? Well, I have more 4s than I do 5. So 4 is going to be our mode. So our mode for this one is 4. All right, let's see if I did another one. 2, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 13. 11. All right, so there's my next one. Well, what's the mode going to be for this one? I don't have any numbers repeating. I don't have any numbers that are the most on in my line of my list of numbers. So for this one, there is no mode. Okay? And let's just move that around so we can see it. There we go. Now, just remember on your notes, you are going to have to fill in some of these things. I want you all to fill in the what. So on your notes, you're going to have to fill in the what for each thing. And I'll give you the rest. And just follow along. All right, so let's do the range. And he doesn't talk about the range in the video. But the range is the span of the data. The span of the data or the numbers. How you find the range? Well, you find it because you do the greatest minus the least. So the greatest minus the least. And here is your example. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. So if I had this data set, oops. If I had that data set, what is my greatest number, my biggest number? Well, that number is 19. I'm going to subtract. What's my littlest number? That number is 1. And that equals 18. So my range is 18. Okay? So you're just going to take the biggest number minus the smallest number, and that'll give you your range. Okay. So that is it for those notes. Let's see. We're not going to worry about this star right here. And we're not going to worry about this star right here. Okay? So, and then we're not going to fill out these two because that's hard to type in here. But remember, we are talking about measures of central tendency. And for us, and that means that we are talking about mean, median, and mode. Okay? And that's what our measures of central tendency are. So that's all I want you to know about that. All right? So please be filling out your notes. I will leave some things blank for you all to fill out, and I'll give you the rest of it, okay? All right, so that's it for this week. Please get the next page done, which is the practice for you all, okay? And then if you need help, you can always see me after school at 2:40. It's during school. So at 2:40, you can see me. Okay, so please come to help session at 2:40. All right.